The story. This is developing on the political front. The ANC's acting national spokesperson, Pule Mabe, has asked the party to extend his leave. In a statement, Mabe says he was taken by surprise by media reports that he'd been suspended. That's after being cleared of allegations of sexual harassment by the ANC. Now, not a face you'd see during the day all the time. ENC's political editor, Vuyo Mvoko, joins me now to discuss it further. And Vuyo, of course, part of these allegations then also come literally an hour before we're expecting the ANC to make a statement to the public. But let's talk about what Pule Mabe has said.
Well, Pule Mabe insists, of course, maintains his innocence, and he believes that what he is told, according to media reports, has happened would not be in line with the established protocols, but also policies of the ANC. Now, perhaps this context is...
Before we get into what the actual process is, let's clarify the issue of the suspension with Pule Mabe and also as it relates to Zizi Kodwa.
Yes.
Because this morning we also have reports that Dakota Lekgoete is going to be officially the person speaking on behalf of the ANC while these two are on suspension.
Yes, while Pule was on suspension, Zizi Kodwa and Dakota Lekgoete were the official spokespersons in an acting capacity. Now, with Pule now having been cleared by Stu Dlamine's grievance committee, he is supposed to have been back at work last week already, actually. In fact, when we spoke to him on the Monday, he said he would be back on the Wednesday. He was waiting for handover and so on. And then at the weekend emerges these new allegations against Zizi Kodwa this time that he had allegedly raped somebody. Now, the ANC has, of course, sort of washed its hands off that one, saying it is not an internal matter. It involves someone from outside who they believe should then approach the courts or state law enforcement agency in a matter that they believe should end up in the courts. Now, when the National Working Committee met yesterday, there was a feeling among them that something needs to be done about Zizi Kodwa. He is the head of presidency in the ANC, meaning he is the eyes, the ears, and often the face of the ANC's presidency. And if you listen to what people like Marion Spark are saying, it is that it doesn't matter whether this is before a court of law or not. The allegations are sufficient to warrant a very clear an unambiguous response from the ANC, given Zizi Kodwa's role, because he believes, and she believes, for example, that whatever Zizi Kodwa will now have to say, people will not really listen to him, given what he is.
And certainly it becomes a bit of an image issue for the ANC, especially in an election year.
Exactly. And this is, Marion Spark is not something you would take lightly, because she was instrumental in Cyril Ramaphosa's rise and win at Nasrec. So she has always been at his side, and rest assured, her position is not coming just from her alone. I would dare say that it has, because she has the ear of the president. So what she said yesterday, just to quote something, to me the issue of Zizi Kodwa is not about the rape allegations, but more of his understanding of his official and political responsibilities. And it is on that note. So whether or not Zizi Kodwa will argue that there is no tribunal, court of law, or an internal ANC process that found him guilty, Marion Spark maintains that this may well be a fight because you're playing in the political space. This may well be a war or a fight directed at Cyril Ramaphosa. So do not compromise Cyril Ramaphosa. Do the right thing and take the step. But then, for this to have effect, it would have to have the blessings of the National Executive Committee. The National Working Committee cannot take that decision. But where the National Executive Committee is not sitting, it is then up to the man who runs the ANC Ace Magashule to then make an interim decision while that recommendation is, of course, being processed.
So as we stand now, where do both Zizikodwa and Pule Mabe sit? And is Pule Mabe justified in saying that he's surprised that he now is effectively not allowed back at work when, in fact, he hasn't even been told about it? He
would be surprised, but the question, I guess, is why was he not at that meeting? I mean, were both of them not at that meeting? So he may not know about the decision that would have been taken there, which would have had to be communicated to him. But then again, if you consider the fact that, for that decision to be ratified, it still has one or two more steps to take. It is perhaps understandable that he wasn't told.
Vuyo, there are also those that take the view that even what we're seeing now, and I think the seriousness of the allegations warrants the appropriate response from the governing party. So suspension is among the least that they can do when you're dealing with such serious allegations. But there are those then who bring into this conversation that part of what we're seeing now in terms of how these things are handled is also about factional politics within the governing party. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, in one instance, the ANC is really reaping what it has sown. For the longest time, people have asked questions about what to do when people get embroiled in things like these. And people like Ace Magashule, who is now running the ANC, have been at the forefront of defending a position that says you cannot, simply because allegations have been leveled at somebody, then shoot from the hip, as he once said, and basically go on and suspend, because essentially what you're doing is you're rewarding information peddlers and people who are enjoined by others to really destroy the careers of other people. Pule Mabe, when I spoke to him early this morning, said exactly the same thing. He said, Nomvula Mokonyane has been embroiled in scandals. Where is she? She is in government, right next to the president. No one has felt it necessary or deemed it necessary to actually suspend her. He said, Pravin Gordhan, allegations have been leveled against him by the Freedom Front. The matter is in court, which means that charges have been laid, but he has not been suspended. You see, but if you go by Marion Sparks' argument, that really shouldn't matter. In fact, all these cases, this then is, at the end of the day, goes back to President Cyril Ramaphosa. What kind of ANC is he trying to build? And is what has happened in the past a model of what should happen? And given his stance, because Marion Spark and them are the people who have been behind Cyril Ramaphosa's approach, which says, as much as you listen to the ANC, remember, it's the millions of people out there who are not necessarily members of the ANC who are going to vote for you. So you've got to lead by example, give them the confidence that you are the person that South Africa is looking for. So I foresee a situation here where these two are going to be thrown under the bus, but that is not going to be where it ends, because they are going to say, hey, what about Nomvula Mokonyane?
Yeah.
What
it's
about
the lack of consistency, really, at the end of the day.
Which, if you ask me, even if it could well be reconnaissance by fire, it is actually an issue that ANC should have confronted long ago. Maybe now that it has been forced on it, someone is going to sit up and notice and hopefully do the right thing.
All right. Well, we'll keep watching the story as it unfolds throughout the day, and the ANC is expected to hold a media briefing also later on this afternoon. In fact, that media briefing could well be underway even right now. Well, coming up, the